Was Jesus of Nazareth a real person? In a world of myths and legends, it's a fair question. If we put the Bible to the side for a moment and look at the world 2,000 years ago, what did the people who weren't following him have to say? Today, we're looking at the raw data, the direct quotes from Roman and Jewish historians, the archaeology under our feet, and the persistent oral traditions that prove Jesus isn't just a story, he's historical fact. My name is Michael, and welcome to the ground level. Let's start with Cornelius Tacitus. Writing around 115 AD, he is considered the gold standard of Roman historians. He wasn't some bystander. He was a senator and a consul. In his final work, the Annals, he describes how Emperor Nero tried to blame the Great Fire of Rome on a group called Christians. Nero fastened the guilt and inflicted the most exquisite tortures on a class hated for their abominations, called Christians by the populace. Christus, from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procreators, Pontius Pilatus. End quote. Note the precision. Tacitus isn't just saying a guy named Jesus. He links him to a specific emperor, Tiberius, and a specific governor, Pilate. He goes even further, describing how the movement was temporarily suppressed, but then broke out again, not only in Judea, but in Rome itself. To Tacitus, Christianity was a deadly superstition. He had no reason to validate its founder. By recording these details, he provides us with a cold, administrative confirmation from the heart of the Roman Empire that Jesus was a real, executed figure. Now, let's look at Flavius Josephus. His story is incredible. He was a Jewish general who fought against Rome, was captured, and eventually became an historian for the Roman emperor. Because he lived in Judea during the time of the apostles, his writings are a goldmine. In his work Antiquities of the Jews, written in the 90s AD, he gives us the famous Testimonium Flavianum. While scholars believe later Christians added a few pious words, the core of the text is unmistakable. Quote, "About this time there lived Jesus, a wise man. He won over many Jews and many of the Greeks. And when, upon the accusation of the principal men among us, Pilate had condemned him to a cross, those who had first come to love him did not cease." End quote. Josephus provides the Jewish why. He mentions that Jesus was condemned because of the principal men among us, meaning the Jewish leadership in Jerusalem. This perfectly matches the gospel accounts. But for the real smoking gun, we look at Book 20. Josephus is describing a power vacuum in Jerusalem in 62 AD. He records how a priest named Ananus illegally executed a man. Josephus identifies the victim very casually. Quote, "He assembled the Sanhedrin of judges and brought before them the brother of Jesus, who is called Christ, whose name was James. And when he had formed an accusation against them, as breakers of the law, he delivered them to be stoned." End quote. This is crucial. To Josephus, the historical landmark wasn't James, it was Jesus. He uses Jesus to explain who James was. This proves that by the end of the first century, Jesus' existence was so well established that even a non-Christian historian used him as a reference point for other events. Now, let's look at the dirt. For years, skeptics doubted the Gospels because they mentioned things like the Pool of Bethesda with 5 porticos. Critics said it was symbolic, not real. Then, archaeologists dug it up, 5 porticos and all. When the geography matches the text, we're no longer talking about legends. We're talking about eyewitness reporting. But it's not just what we find in the ground. It's about persistent memory. Take the Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem. The early Christians were already pointing to a specific cave as Jesus' birthplace. Even the Roman Emperor Hadrian tried to hide the site by planting a pagan grove over it. Ironically, that move acted like an historical X on the map, preserving the spot for us today. We see the same thing in Jerusalem. Modern archaeology confirms the site of the Holy Sepulchre was a Jewish cemetery outside the walls during the 1st century, exactly as the Bible describes. Local memory of where the tomb was located was so strong that even after the city was leveled by Rome, the site was immediately reclaimed. When we look at Tacitus and Josephus together, we see two men from opposite sides of the world. One, a Roman aristocrat, the other, a Jewish general. Both recording the same facts. Jesus was a real man. He had a brother named James. He was crucified by Pontius Pilate, and his followers wouldn't stop talking about him even under the threat of death. If these men, who had every reason to ignore or mock Jesus, recorded him as a solid fact of history, why shouldn't we? But that leads us to the mystery of the resurrection of the movement itself. How did a group of terrified, hiding followers suddenly find the courage to march out and change the world? Next week, we're looking at the 50 days after to see how a dead movement came back to life. I'm Michael, and I'll see you on the ground level.